Hey there, it's Kylie Anderson here, your online business strategist and award-winning coach. I want to talk to you today around why it's so important to have a repeatable customer journey that I guess outperforms any kind of messy funnel. I've been in the online business space for about 5 years now, helping people launch and scale online programs. And I want to kind of talk to you today because the one thing I see, especially a lot of women doing in their businesses, is they overcomplicate things. So they try and do too many things at once. I want to give you a bit of a simple process that I use with a lot of clients to kind of get them to their first six figures. So kind of just helping them get started, create their first clients, move into more of a leverage way of working, and then they can repeat the process. And then once they grow, then they can get more complicated with marketing and things like that. So one of the biggest issues I see a lot of the times is shiny object. They think that they see one thing that they're doing and they're trying something, and then they see someone else try something new, and all of a sudden they go, great, I'm going to go off and try that thing instead. So instead of working to their own means and what they want to deliver, they go and try something else that throws them completely off whack. And I went to an event recently by the gorgeous Nick James. He's a brilliant marketer. And it just reminded me of why I bang on to my clients about keeping things really simple, because complication is what creates chaos. And it also means that you don't get a repeatable system. And a lot of people get stuck because they're not scaling, because they can't grow, because they're never either monitoring or optimizing what they're already doing. So let me talk you through a kind of a customer journey process that I was talking with one of my clients the other day. So we've just gone through a first launch process with this client. They've got a really successful food business, and they have a really engaged audience. But again, it might take a little bit of nurturing for the right audience to join them, because obviously now what they're doing is they're launching a new business program. So what happened was, when we were talking about it, they've run two very simple webinars so far. So we've gone through the process of kind of seeding that there's something new coming. We've been warming up their audience a bit. And it was really good because we didn't go out with any core marketing. We didn't do any marketing spend or really a massive promotion. We just went to their warm audience. They got over 50 registered on the first webinar, and then they repeated it and did that virtually again. So they've got about 100 people there that have shown an interest in what they're sharing in relation to that webinar. So that worked really effectively for low ad spend, not making a massive deal about it. So like I said, they didn't even boost posts. They didn't go out to a wider audience. This was just going to be their test case. So then the second thing that happened was they had about a 50% show up rate, which is actually pretty good live, because a lot of people say it's about a third at the moment show up live on the thing. So they had over 50%. So they were getting good people on the webinar. But then what happened is they only made one sale out of that process so far. And the benefit of doing this is, what happens is, I can never guarantee a launch. Like, you can never go into someone else's marketplace and guarantee a launch, because you don't know how well they've warmed up their audience. You don't know how their audience, what type of audience they've got. So, we bang on about these six-figure launches, and I just want to say not everyone can do that straight off the bat. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do it. But what you can do is then monitor the customer journey. So what we now have is some statistics and a customer journey to work with. So obviously, when you're starting to look at something like that, the first thing you could do is panic and go, oh my God, I've not made enough sales. But what I do is we don't panic over things like that. What we do is then we go through the process and we rip apart the journey, really. So we know at the moment what we're saying is, we've got a good hook for the webinar because we got people to show up. And actually they showed up. Now, yes, there's optimizations we could do. We could add in, text message reminders. We could add in WhatsApp to get more people engaged in between. So there's loads of things we can do to advance that funnel. But the initial actually registration rates and show up rates was pretty good for a small audience that we were just literally going to test from. So that bit's strong. So if we step back and look at the data, then what we know is there's a couple of things that could be going on now. One is the offer may not be strong enough or relevant for the audience. So sometimes you can put out an offer and it doesn't hit. I don't care how successful you are. Sometimes an offer just doesn't hit with your audience. I know someone that did it not long ago. They put out an offer for an 8-week program and it didn't sell at all but then they did it into a one-day workshop and it sold out really quickly. So again, sometimes it's the method of delivery that may also affect people buying. So we know that there could be something wrong with the offer. Is it strong enough? Is it relevant? Is it in the right price bracket for her clients? So we can analyze that and go deeper and do some market research to find out. The second thing is we just want to do a quick summary of the audience that showed up. Are they the right type of audience that showed up in the first place? So you can do a bit of research to go, hey, yep, okay, we've got the right people on, so we can eliminate that bit. Now let's work on the offer conversion. The other thing is then also looking at the sales process after the call. So is the follow-up process strong enough? Did they do enough calls? Did they do enough nurturing? Was there enough follow-up touch points? And also then, can they close on sales? Because again, I can create sometimes launches with people, but if they're no good at selling, you're in trouble. I have no control over that. So again, we want to look at that, but that's the benefit of having a customer journey funnel, is then you can look at the weak points in that funnel and go, okay, how can we make that better? How can we optimize it? So for me, what I'm doing with my client at the moment is we're looking at her sales calls. How can I help with that conversation? Is it she's talking herself out of the sales on the calls? So I can listen to them, we can record them, we can play them back. So because we want to keep it relatively simple. So the good thing is we know she's got a way to get people on. We know she's got people to show up. Yes, they can be all optimized, but then what we need now is the conversion. So we're going to work on the conversions first. Once we've got conversions, we can then start to go out to a wider marketplace and then optimize the rest of the process as we go through. So it's really, really good to not just start something new again. So the other thing that happens a lot is people will run a good workshop, they might run a good webinar, and then they never do it again. They go on to the next shiny object, and that doesn't help you then perfect it. So when I was with Nick the other day, he was saying, like he said, he has run something like, was it 300 events? I know he's had about 300 people through just from the book alone into their one-day workshops and their 3-day events. So again, imagine how much better he gets at delivering it, converting on it, seeing how people engage on the audience for the follow-up process, the optimization of show-up rates. That is when you have then a scalable system and process to grow. So my new one I'm launching at the moment, because I want to do this specifically for my clients, is I'm launching a new book. So over the next couple of weeks, I'll be starting a book funnel. I'll be testing it. I'll be optimizing it. I'll be looking at how many people come in and buy to how many people then go to the next step. And then do they upgrade into my program? So I'm going to be testing that over the next probably 3 to 6 months. And then I'll share some data on that for you because it's a new book. I've been wanting to put a book out for a while and I've just finally got it together. So again, I want to test that process. I'm really good at converting in live workshops. So my main strength for me in my business is I convert off very low numbers. So I can get 20 to 30 people in a room and I will make 15, 20K sales without even thinking about it. So I can run 3 or 4 of those across the year and do 100K just from that. So again, you don't need big numbers to make this happen. What you need to do is get good at it. So can you get good at delivering your workshop in a much more effective way that then gets people buying the next step? So it's all around optimizing, because I want to share some stats that he shared on one of his book funnels, and this is why I went, because I wanted a bit of inspiration around my book funnel, was that they had 4,000 people buy the book. So that was from his list, other people's list, affiliate lists, all that sort of stuff. So they had 4,000 people buy the book. And they did a low cost, I think it was around about $280 for the book or whatever it was, around that price. From that, then their 3-day program, they sold 267. So they made about 500K just on that upsell. But then what happened is, actually about 400K, I think that works out to. Then they had 66 people join them in the mastermind, which was their higher level, which is somewhere between about 8 to 9K, depending if you're starting out or progressing. So they did nearly 900K just off the direct sales from that book. Now imagine there's also still about 3,500 people off the book that bought the book in the first place who haven't bought yet, because you take off about 300, because that was the 300 that went through the program, and then they were the ones that then went on to join into the mastermind. So again, you look at that, there's 3,500 people there. There's probably 3 years of clients there for the average person that haven't even converted yet. So that's the power of doing a funnel, because what you can do is then optimize it. You can test it with a smaller audience like we have with my client, gone out to a warm audience first, tested the process, looked at the offer, looked at what's going on, then we can tweak it. Then we can go to a slightly wider audience. Once we've got that wider audience and we know it's converting and they're getting the sales, then what we can do is go to an affiliate partner and potentially then try and get in front of bigger audiences or go and speak on other people's stages and then optimize it from there. But what I really want you to gauge from this video is marketing funnels don't have to be complicated, but ideally you need to be doing a few things. You need to understand, first, choose the thing that works for you. So for me, I love live events, small intimate events I sell really well off. I'm about to now test my second way of selling, and that's through the books, because I'm going to see how I convert off the back of the book into a process. But you want to choose the thing. So whether it's a webinar, whether it's a book funnel, whether it's a workshop, whether it's just simply a call, what's your thing to be able to sell from? Then once you've got that, you want to track your numbers and conversions along the way. So for example, if you're doing a webinar funnel, you want to track how many people viewed the page, how many then converted into a registration, how many from the registration turned up on the actual webinar, how many then went through the email process, how many then went on to buy. And from there, you can track and get your first round of numbers. Once you've got first round of data and numbers, then you can obviously start the process again and go, well, what happens if we just optimize how many people show up? That could be adding, like I said, a simple follow-up process in WhatsApp, because WhatsApp, the open rate is much higher. So they're more likely to then show up because they've remembered, they've been reminded, you're building rapport in between, all that sort of thing. But the key is to get your base figures first, get that base numbers, and then start to optimize and repeat the process. So I always joke about Russell Brunson because he always talks about you're one funnel away. And I don't think so, because most people panic about the complication of those sorts of funnels. Also, they pay way too much for someone else to build it for them. But the goal really is to find the thing that works for you, then start to test and tweak it with some advanced stuff. Get some inspiration, look at some ideas. How can you nurture them? How can you make that process better? How can you make your follow-up process really, really, really good? So again, it's then about optimizing. So what I want you to do today is don't overcomplicate things. Think about your customer journey. And as Nick said, how do people go from cold to sold in your marketplace? So what is your customer journey right now in your business? I want you to sit there and think about that, put it out on a blank paper, map out the steps that your customers go from being cold, not knowing who you are, to then coming through to potentially buying from you. What is the customer journey? And do you have any stats around that at the moment? If you don't, start to monitor some of them and go, well, actually, if we run that campaign, how many do we get through? What's our conversion rates? And start to look at what are the key performance indicators of that customer journey. Then I want you to look at how can you optimize it. If you could just tweak one of those elements, you'll probably end up, worst case, maybe doubling your sales. Like, again, if you work on how many, most people automatically go and work on more numbers. And that was what my client wanted. She wanted immediately to go out and get more people through the webinar. And I was like, no, there's no point, because we've got a sales problem at the end. So again, don't just go and throw more people at it. I want you to optimize the process first. So, and Nick actually said to work backwards, because again, if you've got, say, 30 people that have turned up on a call, and maybe you only closing at 20%, like good closers will close at 50, 80%. So how can you improve your close rate slightly? What do you need to do? You don't need to work any harder. You just need to get more sales out of the work that you're already doing. So that's my food for the thought for the day, is how can you simplify the growth in your coaching or service-based business through getting this repeatable process of customers. So when you go out and speak, when you go and run a workshop, when you go and maybe run that book campaign, that you get a certain amount of clients on a regular basis. And that's how you then start to build the consistency into your business. So I hope this helped. All I want you to do is hit follow. Give me a comment below whether this helps you. Obviously, we can only go into so much detail in these videos, but hopefully that's given you a bit of a guide around how you can create a simple, repeatable client process for your business today. Bye for now.